Hey everybody, my name is Chris Blankenhorn. Was the Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker 2020 Social Media and Tech Director. This is the second in a series of 2 digital organizing tools workshops that I'm going to be doing. This one is going to be specifically for grassroots campaigns. So what kind of systems and tech can we use to make us more effective and more efficient in our grassroots and electoral campaigns? These tools could also be pushed over and used for kind of shorter term issues campaigns as well. The first in the series of 2 was last month, and it was digital organizing tools for parties. And it really focused on thinking about what a resource is. What does it mean for a political party or an organization to offer resources to its members? And you can see that link in the chat. But let's get started. I'm going to go through a lot of different areas today. Talk about a lot of different parts of campaigning. I'm going to data dump a whole bunch real fast, and then I'll have some time at the end for questions. But I'm not. I've learned doing these workshops. I've been doing these workshops since about 2018, and I've learned that if I stop between every single category and we have discussions, we're going to be here for hours. So to start off, I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Chris Blankenhorn. As I said, I was the Hawkins Walker Social Media and Tech Director, really for the whole campaign. I'm the ILGP Secretary of the Illinois Green Party. I'm a former national co-chair, serving as a Green Party of the United States national co-chair from 2016 to 2018. And I'm heavily involved with the Young Eco-Socialists for the next week and a half before I age out. And I've worked extensively with their education committee, serving as the vice chair. So, a little bit of an introduction to, grassroots campaigning. We need to be super efficient at our campaigns. We're up against, capitalist corporate parties that have millions, billions in presidential elections of dollars to spend on elections. And to be honest, the Republicans and Democrats are not very efficient when they run their campaigns, right? The Republicans and Democrats basically just throw money at campaigns, and you can see that when you look at, vote per dollar ratios and things like that, where Greens almost always perform better. And part of that is that Greens have less money, and we get less votes. So obviously, our ratio is going to be skewed a little, but when you look at our campaigns, we always have really good vote to dollar ratios. The Hawkins Walker campaign was a $1 vote vote to dollar ratio. And one of the ways we get that is, being efficient in the work that we do, and stretching our resources and systems can be a very important part of that. And frankly, it's an area where the Green Party is often, and the independent left is often lagging behind. So we need to make sure that we are implementing systems in effective ways, and using these systems, not to replace the work of organizing, not to replace the work of campaigning, but to make that work more effective, to uplift it, to automate a lot of the tasks that take up a lot of our resources, a lot of our time, which as grassroots campaigns, by definition, we don't have as much resources and time. So with that, I'm going to dive directly into it. Like I said, these are not tools that will replace, that should be thought of as replacing the hard work of deep canvassing, of knocking doors, but these are things that can make both our internal work and our external work more effective. So, political campaigns, elections are about voters, right? Campaigns are about talking to and winning over voters. And so to do that effectively, we need to be keeping track of voters. We need to be keeping track of contacts. We need to be actively reaching out to voters through numerous different platforms, right? the bread and butter of political campaigns has always been email blasts. But you've also got phone banking, text banking, social media, door knock, all these different things that you can do that allow you to get touches with voters, and those touches, multiple touches can then hopefully lead to actually getting a vote. So to start off, I'm going to talk about contact management stuff. First things first, if you're running a green campaign, talk to your state party about this stuff. Your state party should have a CRM or contact management system in effect or in operation. They should have their own contacts in there, and hopefully, ideally, green campaigns and green endorsed campaigns are offered these kind of tools as part of the resources that come with being an endorsed candidate, right? So the first step when you're going to run and you're thinking about lists and things like that, go to your state party. You should be talking to them anyway about nomination endorsement, however that process works in your state. But talk to them first, and if they say they don't have anything, tell them to email Chris at howiehawkins.com, and I will yell at them and then help them. Because we really need our campaigns to be providing real tangible resources so that people want to run green. If they don't have it, and while I'm yelling at them, here are some options that you can look at. So contact management, manage your lists, your contact lists of voters. They generally do email blasts, and they generally offer a number of different, kind of organizing tools. To start off, we've got Action Network. I put Action Network up at the top because it is the most affordable and user-friendly of the options that I'm presenting right now. Action Network is a CRM engagement tool, and it focuses on progressive groups. Right now, the Illinois Green Party and the New Jersey Green Party both use it, and I'm sure there are other Green parties in the country that are using it as well. It can do database management. It can do email marketing. It handles your fundraising. It handles events. It's got action tools like petitions. It's got the ability to let you have, they call them letter writing campaigns, but it's basically an automated system where your supporters can do digital lobbying and send template emails to, elected officials or other targeted influencers and decision makers. You might be able to squeeze by as a campaign on Action Network using the free plan, and they also offer campaign pages, which you might be able to have be a weak substitution for a website. But generally, you want a full website, and one of the great things about Action Network is that it can integrate well with WordPress, which is a user-friendly and probably the largest web platform out there. It's what's used in Illinois and in New Jersey that I know of, as well as a number of other states. But I just know those two from working with Action Network. And that allows you to embed these tools, the petitions and things like that, into your website very easily, donation forms, all that kind of stuff. So free. There's a free version. You don't get a bulk upload list. So you have to manually upload input all of your supporters. You can send 10,000 emails a month for free. You have some limitations in the tools, some limitations in your integrations. For $10 a month, you can send from 10,000 to 1 million emails. It won't just stay at 10. You'll fluctuate a little. Your price will fluctuate based on your email capacity when you start sending large numbers of emails. But that gets you way more tools, custom stylizing, and some automation stuff. And that'll be probably more than any campaign needs, right? That's all most campaigns need. But when I talk to parties about the $100 a month option, which gives you 50,000 to 1 million emails. And what it allows is group hierarchies. So we can have the Illinois Green Party with a list, and then we can have the Cook County Green Party, the Sangamon Green Party, the DuPage Green Party, the Jackson County Green Party as children underneath, and they all share their data upward, right? So that's an ideal setup for a party. But for most campaigns or short-term issue groups, that $10 a month is going to be more than you need, is going to be all that you need. And like I said, that price will go up if you start sending more emails, but you probably get to send at least the first 10,000 without any increase. So that's a lot of emails if you're running a local campaign, and would be more than enough. And $10 a month is a very affordable rate for this, all the tools that you get out of this system. Next up is Nation Builder. Nation Builder is a CRM that boasts itself as an all-in-one tool. It's the most common CRM in the Green Party, I would guess, largely because the Greens, including the National Party, were sold on it being this amazing all-in-one tool. We didn't need website hosts. We didn't need these other systems that we were stacking to get our full service. It does list management, it does email marketing, it does fundraising, it's got events and action tools, and it does full on websites, so it can host your website as well. With Action Network, you're going to need an outside website that you connect to all your actions to. So there's a second piece, like to make Action Network and Nation Builder do the same work. You need two pieces, Action Network and a website stacked next to just Nation Builder. So that's what got a lot of Greens using it. The problem is it very much lives up to the saying, jack of all trades, master of none, right? First and foremost, Nation Builder was built as a database. So it is a very powerful contact management database. And to be honest, most Greens don't use it to the point that they're taking advantage of how powerful it is. We're just using it as a glorified spreadsheet. There's not a lot of data management. And because of that, you need to, because of that, we're overpaying because we're not using the services that we're paying for. So it's first and foremost, it works in databases. Its web tools are lacking, if I'm being kind, and absolutely horrible, if I'm being honest. It is not a user-friendly way to build a website. It is not an aesthetically pleasing way to build a website, and they use their own conventions. They did not stick with a lot of industry standards, and there's a lot of things in there that you'd only do if you're using Nation Builder, which, as a long-time web developer, is very frustrating when you try to use it. But it's the most popular one in the party, right? So it's very commonly used. And as a campaign, when you approach your party, like I said, the first thing you should do is be approaching the party about endorsement and about resources. You may find that they have a Nation Builder account, and then now you're on Nation Builder, and all this is solved for you. If your party doesn't have it, Nation Builder plans start at about $30 a month for 500 contacts, and then it scales. It's generally based on contacts, what your price is, but and they allow you to send unlimited emails to those contacts, but they cap you with how many people can be in your account. Which is bad for things like voter lists, right? It's not good. It's not easy to load a voter. It's not cheap to load a whole voter list into Nation Builder. It's prohibitively expensive. So like in Illinois, we have voter lists, but they are not in Nation Builder. They could never be in Nation Builder when we had it because it would be just astronomically expensive to put 8 million people into our list. So you're generally based on the number of people on your list. But there's some stuff with their plans where like you're limited in websites until you upgrade to the next tier. So Nation Builder, the most common but very expensive in Illinois, we are shutting it off in 5 days. And the reason behind that is when you're spending over $300 a month on this thing, we're moving to Action Network, we're spending $100. The last one is CiviCRM. CiviCRM is open source and free. Greens really like to talk about CiviCRM, but the reality is it's not user friendly, and it's that free has an asterisk, right? That free requires you to have hosting, requires you to have the skill or pay for the skill to maintain and develop more tools into your CiviCRM. So because it's open source, you could develop almost anything you want. Right, and Action Network is also the same. You can pay them a little extra money and they'll develop things for you, or you can get into their API and you can develop them on your own. But CiviCRM really requires tech-savvy people. tech-savvy team members that can develop, deploy, and maintain it. And to be honest, the level of work for CiviCRM for a short-term political campaign probably isn't worth it. When I give this talk, when I talk focused on parties, I always end this area talking about CiviCRM and how long-term I think the Green Party needs to channel collective resources and develop a CiviCRM database that is a green, built and made for us and for our purposes and made available down from the national party down through locals and campaigns. That is a green answer to the VAN, which is the Democrats' CRM. Things like Constant Contact and MailChimp can fill this role. If you're running a small race, a small local race, you can probably get by with the Constant Contact list and not get into all this CRM stuff. But like I said, they'll do it poorly. You'll be able to send email contacts. You'll be able to collect, new contacts and get out to them. But you won't get a lot of the tools that you need. And the last thing I'm going to say on this is, especially potential candidates that float in the progressive sphere, you don't want to be using the VAN. If you're an independent campaign, if you're a green campaign, you don't want to be using the NGP VAN. The NGP VAN is the Democratic Party's controlled CRM. So I know a lot of people in 2016 who, backed Bernie from the independent left and then were mad that they were getting emails from Hillary. Well, the reason you're getting emails from Hillary is because the VAN is controlled by the Democrats. When you use the VAN, you agree that all of your data floats upwards, right? So everybody who donated to Bernie, everyone who volunteered for Bernie, all of their information, once Bernie dropped out, went straight up into the DNC's, master database and was handed off to other candidates. And now those same people are getting messages for years about it. So you want to stay away from the VAN when it comes to contact management. The other big part of, one of the other major parts of running a political campaign is money. It's key to running a successful campaign. It doesn't take a lot in most local races, but it does take some. There's materials, there's systems, there's staffing, there's legal aid, there's petitioning, there's filing fees. These are all things that can cost money, right? And the reality is volunteers are great, but if you want to smoothly run an organization, you at least need some stipend or paid staff to give you a consistent basis from which the volunteers can work off of. The reality of volunteering is that most Greens are already super volunteers and are already stretched too thin, and things get dropped. And so, the reality is, I know a lot of Greens like to talk about no money campaigns and this other type of campaign that doesn't involve raising money. But as of yet, I've not seen anyone successfully, illustrate what this is, other than just virtue signaling about money in politics. The reality is, if we don't want to exploit our volunteers, if we want to make sure the people throwing down for our campaign are getting paid for their labor, if we want to be able to pay filing fees, if we want to be able to print yard signs and door hangers and materials and all that kind of stuff, we need to raise some money. So donation processing is an important thing that campaigns need to get figured out. In Illinois, generally, we won't endorse your campaign if you don't have a bank account, because it tells us you're not going to raise money and you're not going to run a serious campaign. This one, again, starts with a qualifier. You should be talking to your state party first. If your state party has Nation Builder, if your state party has Action Network, if your state party has CiviCRM, these all offer existing donation tools, right, that you should be able to connect your campaign bank account to and create your own donation portals. And that means you won't have to worry about any of this finding other options. That said, if it's not an option, you do have a few options. And so Action Network, Nation Builder, and CiviCRM, they all have standard transaction fees, which are common, across most major platforms. And Stripe and PayPal are generally, where I see the sources of these fees being. But so for every donation, you're going to pay a fee of 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. And that, like I said, Stripe, PayPal, that's their standard fee. There are other options where you can, where you can have different pricing things and stuff like that. But that's the basics. You can dig deeper if you want to, if you think another one of their pricing plans might work. But that's the baseline. Donor Box, we used in the early Holly Hawkins campaign. It's a really good system. I liked it a lot. It makes creating donation portals really easy. It integrates well with WordPress. It looks really nice, and people get to stay on your page, which is good. Donor Box has that standard 2.9 plus 30% fees, plus an extra 1.5% fee that is Donor Box's take. So the 2.9%, like I said, is to Stripe or to PayPal or wherever your processor is, and then your portal, which is Donor Box in this case, gets the 1.5%. They offer some other plans. You can look at it where you can get lower per transaction and things like that. Generally, I don't think political campaigns should be worrying much about that 30 cents versus 20 cents versus 10 cents or however it works out, because we're generally, you want to worry about that if you're selling a candy bar, right? If you're selling a candy bar that for $1, then that 30% is a huge part. If your average donation is $25, you don't notice that 30 cents. And it's probably not worth the resources of struggling to find alternative fund, digging through all the alternative funding options. CrowdPack is another one. It's 3.5% plus 20 cents per transaction. They use a service called Democracy Engine as their funding or as their donation processor, I'm pretty sure, unless they've changed it recently. And the big thing, I tried to add Democracy Engine to this, but their pricing page had no info on it, so I couldn't get enough information to find out what their pricing was. So CrowdPack's another one. CrowdPack prides itself on being able to offer you a one-stop shop, right? So you create a little campaign page, you can create posts. I think you can do a little bit of email marketing, and it can take your donations. Personally, I don't find CrowdPack websites to be overly professional, and I don't think they're going to have the tools that you need to run a real strong campaign. But it's an option. People do it. Much like the comment on the NGP van, in this case, you want to avoid ActBlue. ActBlue is the Dem-controlled portal. I think WinRed is the Republican one, but both of them, if you use these as your services, all your donor information is going straight to the Democratic Party. So we really want green and independent campaigns to stay away from these things. They are big, and the Dems make them available because they would like to siphon off and capture, all of our donor info and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're not using ActBlue similarly to the NGP van. Engagement, right? Political campaigns are about talking to people. So, the tried and true bread and butter way of doing that is knocking doors, hitting festivals, hitting the streets, doing deep canvassing, having conversations with voters. And you absolutely need to be doing this. There's no replacement for this. If you're not doing this, you're probably not going to have any chance in winning your election, right? Yard signs don't vote. It doesn't matter how many of them you print. The people who like yard signs are your existing supporters because it makes them feel like they get something for their support. But there's research shows they don't deliver votes. They just make current supporters happy. So you still got to keep knocking those doors. You've still got to do all of that. But you can also use digital engagement tools. Like I said earlier, Action Network, Nation Builder, CiviCRM, these all have the ability to have their own built-in engagement tools like petitions and forms. So if you have one of these, everything else is supplemental. That doesn't mean that you don't that the supplemental isn't good or that you don't want to use the supplemental. It's just that you already have some tools that can probably get through on a general local level campaign. I said petitions, which is the time brings about the time I break the bubble in these workshops for people. If you've signed a petition on the internet, 99% chance it wasn't turned in anywhere. It wasn't reported to anyone. It is a list building exercise. Change.org, nothing happens with it. Somebody collects the data and then you get on an email list, right? So that's what, that's what petitions, that's what these kind of, surveys are the same way. Like, we got some great data from surveys. We were able to, validate during the campaign that we were focusing on the right issues based on survey responses. We were able to find demographic information on different things, on different issues, things like that. Surveys are great. They provide a lot of great data for the internal campaign, but they're also a list building exercise, right? So that's just the reality of what digital engagement tools are for. Is they're for getting you more contacts so that you can then reach out to those voters who have taken an action or expressed an interest in your policy positions or your campaign, and you can engage them more, right? When someone likes you on Facebook, likes your post on Facebook, you don't have a way to go and find that person necessarily unless you've got a really dedicated social team that's going and clicking and messaging all of these people, and they're doing some, or if you've got tools that are aggregating and scraping this information off of when people interact. But with something like a petition, their interaction gives you a direct contact link if you ask for it, and then you can use that to build the relationship and turn a supporter into a prospective voter into a voter. And you can even do this with something simple like an embedded Google form, right? This can be done free or very, very cheap. Do-Gooder is a third party petition company. They were started by Greens in Australia, former Green staffers in Australia who split off and started this digital engagement company. Pricing starts at about $40 a month, and their real specialty is that they allow you to directly contact elected officials. So you can have, a letter writing campaign where people are emailing an elected official on an email, on an issue. You can have a call campaign where people are provided a script and it allows them to call their elected officials about an issue. And the big benefit of this, traditionally it's like you would link on your website, go here and find the link to your, the phone number for your rep, or give us your zip code or your address, and it'll populate the number for you or something like that. And the reality is every step someone has to take, you lose engagement, right? So the goal of Do-Gooder is to pick up some of save some of that engagement loss by not making them take a, proactive action to go and find that number and then make the call on their own. It's all automated right there on the page when they do it. And, they can edit, if it's an email, they can edit the template, they can add the things they want, and it can go from there. Action Network has letter campaigns. And as I said, that starts at $10 a month when you start paying, and there are free options. So for smaller campaigns, Action Network might be the better place to start for this kind of digital lobbying. That said, Do-Gooder does a lot of other things. They're like built-in escalations where you can have, a petition on this issue, and then an email on this issue, and then a call on this issue, and then some of their more expensive plans allow things like letting your users tweet at elected officials. So they have these like built-in escalations to their campaign that are really cool and really important and good organizing, because it keeps people engaged and it keeps people activated and agitated and fired up. SurveyMonkey is another good tool. There's free versions of SurveyMonkey that will work fine, and then there's $32 a month will cover what most Greens need. SurveyMonkey is really good for doing things like quizzes. We had a ballot access quiz during the campaign that asked people questions about ballot access laws, and that was a SurveyMonkey tool. Another cool thing about SurveyMonkey is that it can allow you to do ranked. It's not ranked choice voting. It's not single transferable and all the things that the Green Party talks about when we talk about democracy. But it is a weighted ranked kind of survey. So you want to you put things in the order, and it, like I said, eliminate votes and do things like ranked choice voting, but it does give weights, and it does allow the ranking to provide a weighted result when you're asking, more complex questions. The Green Party's merchandise committee used this when we did a survey a couple years ago, asking what people wanted to use for new products, right? And there were 20 new products listed, and they could rank them all, and then it gave us, it told us what we already knew was people wanted more shirt designs. It's how it goes. So, those are both digital activism tools, list building tools. And then the last one I have in this section is Call Hub. Call Hub is a phone banking and text banking app. I've been told that people on the ground are, in smaller local situations are actually just going back to spreadsheets as opposed to Call Hub. But Call Hub can integrate with Nation Builder, it can integrate with City CRM, it can integrate with Action Network, and it really simplifies your text banking, your call banking work, and it can do it, and it does it relatively cheaply. For when people are using a browser to make calls, so calling through their internet, the voice over the internet calls, it's 6.9 cents per minute. When they're using their own phone, it's 9.2 cents per minute. When they're doing robocalls, when you're programming robocalls, it's 44.6 cents per minute, and it's 3.4 cents per minute for text banking, right? Or per text, and that's both ways. So when they text you back, it's another 3.4. But I always like to, think about this in terms of money spent, right? We don't have a lot of money in the Green Party. So I always use the example of $100. $100 is going to get you 10 to 20 yard signs probably. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But we're talking about a very small number of yard signs for $100. For $100, you can get 2,900 text messages, right? 2,900 text messages, where you can get 1,450 minutes of calling, of phone banking, and the amount of people you can reach in those kind of stats are just, for me, it's a no-brainer. There's no question in my mind. Every time I would invest it in the call banking and text banking, as opposed to getting a few yard signs that your current supporters will like, as opposed to being able to use this calling and texting to communicate directly with potential voters and not just your supporters. Communications are important, internally for your campaign. So there's a few options here, and they kind of serve different purposes. First up, I've got Slack, and I guess I'll kind of combine Slack and Flock in the same conversation, but Slack and Flock are both basically group messaging apps. They allow you to create channels for different topics. They allow you to, and then you have, it's the replacement for the email list. It's a replacement for a group text. It puts it all in one place in a searchable location, in a filterable location, in an organized location. Both Slack and Flock, one of the major limitations of their free plans is that after 10,000 messages, which you would be amazed at how fast you reach that, after 10,000 messages, they start deleting messages. So when you hit 10,001 posts, number one deletes, and it just keeps you at 10,000 active messages. For parties who generally want an institutional record spanning years, that's a major problem. That basically makes the free versions of these tools rather useless for parties. But for a campaign, which is shorter and where you may not have the concern about saving every conversation, the free plans could very much work. They both have a limitation of 10 integrations on their free plan, and they both allow one-on-one video calls on their free plan, right? So it eliminates the need for Zoom. You can have your own Zoom. And on the free, you can do, I can talk to one other person. When you upgrade on both, you get unlimited messages, so it's no longer deleting. You get unlimited integrations. You get why you get group chat with more people involved. On Slack, you can have 15 people in the first paid plan, and it's unlimited on Flock, and you get some access to some more features. Those paid plans, the big problem with them is they start charging you by user once you pay. So an entry level Slack is about $8 per user, and an entry level Flock is about $4.50 per user. And that can really add up if you have a sizable campaign team. Once you reach about 20, 25 people, then we enter into the realm of project management tool that I suggest that our parties look at, which is Basecamp. You can see me talk about it in the workshop that I posted at the beginning, the first of these two, in the series of these two. But once you get to 25, you're better off moving to something that's not charging you by user. Flock, between Slack and Flock, one thing Flock does have that Slack doesn't is some light team management tools, project management tools. You can do things like add to-dos and assign things to people, share documents easier. So Flock has a little bit more power and is a little cheaper. Generally, I would lean towards, if you're going to pay for one of these messaging apps, or if you're going to use the free version of one of these two, I would lean towards Flock personally. Discord is another option. It is a group chat channel, like a group chat app. It's popular in programming and coding in the gaming community. It's free. It has free unlimited message boards and video chat. So it's a free version if that's out there for you. In my experience, it's a little less user-friendly and a little less app-friendly. I don't like the app as much as I like Slack and Flock. And then the last thing I put on here is Signal. Signal is an encrypted messaging app made by Whisper Systems. And basically, when I need a password from someone in the national party, it'll be sent via Signal. In the Illinois Green Party, where we use Basecamp, Basecamp is encrypted, so if I need a password, I send it through its internal messaging. But like I said, for most campaign, the national Howie Hawkins campaign, we used Basecamp. And the downside of Basecamp is it's $1,000 a year or $100 a month, but the upside is it's unlimited users, unlimited scalability, right? So you can add as many people as you want. So as a national level campaign, we started in Flock actually, and then moved to Basecamp. But for most local campaigns, this kind of communication system is probably going to be more than enough. Basecamp, while a great system in my opinion, is expensive for a short-term campaign. And Basecamp, something that you want, something like your state party to be using as long-term resources, long-term infrastructure that campaigns can utilize. And it's hard. You don't want to pick up an expensive system like that only for it to die when the campaign dies. Those are different communications options, and all of these, none of it is comprehensive. There's always other options. There's things like Lumio and Freedcamp, and other things out there that you can look into. I've looked into a lot of them, and these are kind of my top, top brush over of everything. I left that called design tools, but it should have been called social media. My heart's broken on this one. I love Hootsuite. We use it in the Hawkins Walker campaign to this day still. I love Hootsuite. Allows you to publish in multiple platforms at one time. It gives you a calendar for scheduling. It gives you social streams so you can see on one screen what's happening on all of your different social media feeds. It allows you to do manage all of your inboxes from one place. The problem is in the last few months, they've changed the pricing plans. It used to be a free plan was pretty much perfect for a small campaign or a small local party. And that was because you got 3 social media platforms. You can make it be Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, the 3 names. And then you could schedule up to 30 posts at a time. So when you scheduled 30 and then the first one posted, now there's a new open slot, you can schedule again. Like I said, they changed their pricing in the last couple months, and now you only get 2 platforms, which you can kind of live with. But the big problem is they put you down to 5 scheduled posts. So they made it basically useless as a scheduling app. It's really heartbreaking for me that they did it, because I love it. I've tried I've tried Later, I've tried Buffer. I'm not huge fans of them, but I'm being forced into them in places like the Illinois Green Party, because at the new pricing plan at $50 a month, it's just not something that's going to be affordable within our priorities for a state level party. So that sucks. I'm really disappointed by that. Later is another one. They've got a free version. I put them second because I think their free version can work for a small campaign or a small local. It offers 4 platforms, 30 scheduled posts per month. That's basically 1 post a day. So that'll get you a baseline. The key to growing, to grassroots social media, in my opinion, is consistent quality content. If you miss a day, you get punished by the algorithms. If you miss a week, you get just destroyed by the algorithms. So consistent posting is key. That 1 post a day will keep you a baseline, and then you can fill in where you need with supporting posts. For $12.50 a month, you can have the same 4 platforms. You can get 60 scheduled posts a day or a month. So now we're up to 2 a day that can be scheduled. And for $21 a month, you can have up to 150, which should give you about 5 possible posts being scheduled every day. So those are much more affordable options, even for the paid, than Hootsuite. And they offer many of the same tools. The layout's different, things like that. Buffer is the next one, and it is 3 platforms and 10 scheduled posts per month, which is really not worth anything. You can schedule for 1/3 of the days on each platform. For $15 a month, you can get more platforms, which means you could support your locals as well with it, and you get 100 scheduled posts a month, and you can keep building to get to unlimited and things like that. Like I said, I'm still researching alternatives to Hootsuite. Right now, Later is the best that I've found in terms of pricing. There's a lot of them out there, but they're all kind of, you're going to be spending $1,000 a year in the paid pricing for a lot of them on their baseline. So, and for a lot of grassroots campaigns and parties, that's just not an amount of money you can spend for social media scheduling. It's just not the best use of the money. Kind of staying in the social media realm, streaming. When I talk about social media and streaming, I say that for most social media, video is king. Twitter is the example where just being loud and posting constantly is king, but for most social media, video is king and streaming is god. The algorithms very, very much favor image content, then video content, then streaming content. So especially Facebook. So the first one I'm going to suggest is StreamYard. I suggested StreamYard over, I think it's called? Recast or something. But there's another big one that I looked at. I selected StreamYard 1 because it's what I'm using now. It's what I'm used to. And 2, it was a little cheaper. But StreamYard has a free version where you have StreamYard branding. I can actually even, boom, it's up there in the corner, powered by StreamYard. If you have the free version, that'll be there and it won't be removable, right? We use the paid version for the campaign, so we have our own branding, and these overlays and things that I'm using come with it. But their free version, you can stream for $20 a month, which is more than most local, campaigns are going to probably stream. You can have up to 6 participants on a stream, and you can stream to a single platform. So you can stream straight to Facebook or something like that. For $20 a month, you get no branding, and you get the ability to do overlays to do your own. You can stream as much as you want. Unlimited streaming, you can have up to 10 participants on a stream, and you can stream to multiple platforms at once. So this right now, we're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, all from the same stream. It's run through the browser. You don't need good internet. You need decent internet, but I'm over Wi-Fi in a 140-year-old house, and I haven't had any problems with it. Even haven't even had to go hardwire myself. So it's very user friendly. When you get into the back end, if you use Zoom or something, you'll be very comfortable. You can pull out comments, see comments, do all kinds of stuff. The little ticker at the bottom and all that. So it allows us to put on very professional quality streams in a very easy way. If you're doing a complex stream, you can have someone in the back end work. On Tuesdays in how he streams, you'll always hear him talking about his boss on the back end, right? We have our campaign managers on those streams, and she's not on screen, but she's the one doing overlays and adding links and moderating comments and choosing what questions are asked and things like that. But it's so easy. Today I have no one supporting me. I'm able to be doing this and click the overlays and swap them out. So StreamYard is a great tool for streaming, and we should be doing it, right? COVID has really changed the game and brought a lot of this kind of digital organizing stuff into the mainstream. And we've got to, like I said, it's not a replacement for going out and knocking the doors, but we shouldn't abandon these digital tools when we hit the streets again. They should become a permanent part of our tool chest. Another option is OBS Studio. OBS Studio is free and open source. It's really powerful. You can do a lot of really cool things with it, but it's less user friendly. It's harder to set up. You can do multiple streams and all that kind of stuff. Overlays and graphics and video, and it's a really powerful tool, but you're gonna need someone on your team that has an understanding of tech that'll allow them to at least run it for you, if not train you how to do it as well. But then in addition to the streaming stuff, I just wanted to mention campaign should also have a Zoom or a Jitsi or whatever the Blue Jeans, whatever the platform that you prefer, or if you have Slack or Flock, you can use their video chats, but you really should have some kind of video chat, video conferencing tool that you can use for campaign calls, that you can use for interviews, that you can do workshops on, all that kind of stuff. That used to be in 2018 when I started doing these workshops, that was a much bigger part of my pitch. I think now, after a year of COVID, everybody's pretty comfortable with at least the idea of video chats. So it just can become a cursory, thing that I cover. Design tools. I'll start at the bottom. If your campaign has experienced designers, they're going to have a program they're comfortable with. You don't need to worry about this, right? Our campaign has people who are comfortable in Photoshop and in Illustrator, and so while our campaign did have an Adobe Spark account, it didn't really get used much because frankly, as a graphic designer, I would rather stay in my program that I have a decade of experience in, and that is more powerful than Adobe Spark or Canva. That said, if you don't have an experienced graphic designer on your team, Canva and Adobe Spark can offer you quick graphic design and photo editing tools. It's a key part of having an active social media campaign, and but they allow you to do it all on an app. So an example I always like to give is your candidate is speaking. You've got a team member on the ground. They pull out their phone. They take the picture. They go into Canva, and they can, in Canva, upload the picture, throw the campaign logo in the corner, and then put a block text with a quote in it, and then you can have that posted on the internet while you're still speaking, right? That could all be done very, very quickly, saved and then uploaded and then posted. Adobe Spark is the same idea, but it's Adobe's version. I will say my biggest disappointment with Adobe Spark, I was really excited about it because I was hoping that I could load Photoshop files into it and that it would give me the layers, and that then the team could collaborate on an existing Photoshop draft. That's not the case. It's got its own file system, but it does the same similar thing. It makes and laying out so photo editing, like I described, or laying out full-on graphics, very easily drag and drop and user-friendly. Canva starts free, and then you can upgrade to $15 a month, which would cover about everything that a green campaign would need. Adobe Spark starts at $10 a month, so they're both pretty affordable. In general, I think almost all green campaigns could probably get away with the free Canva account, and there's other things out there like that, like these, but these are the two that I've got the most experience with. So to close it off, I want to loop back around, right? I've said it a few times, and this one may seem way out of place away from engagement and things like that, but I wanted to loop back around at the end and really hit home again, right? These tools don't replace organizing. The goal is that they make our organizing easier, that they make our organizing more effective and more efficient. So if you're running a political campaign, you should be canvassing. You should be door knocking. You should be talking to voters. If you're not, you probably don't stand much of a chance of winning. In Illinois, we just elected our first ever green mayor. Peter Schwartzman was elected the mayor of Galesburg earlier this month. A small college town. He'd been a city councilor for a decade, ran for mayor against and beat the incumbent. He was talking to our state party at our state party convention last weekend, and he talked about his canvassing. 38 days straight, he knocked doors. And one thing he learned was in the beginning, he was actually using data given to him by progressive Democrats from the van. And what he learned was that they were skipping doors that weren't hard Democrat, right? They were skipping, and the largest voting block in most elections is non-voters. So they were skipping the opportunity for growth. They were only focusing on their base, and he started knocking every door. After he spoke, I told our campaign manager, we need more candidates who can tell us how many doors they knocked, how many doors their team knocked, how many days in a row they knocked. These are key metrics to talking to voters, which is how you win elections. It's how you win them. It's what we have to do. So to end, to loop back around to that, I have a couple of canvassing tools. Civi CRM can also do walk sheets. Illinois has a presently defunct pilot Civi CRM program that was designed specifically for running walk sheets. I've been told it's the largest Civi CRM install in the world because it has the entire Illinois voter database in it. So there's about 8 million people, and it can run you walk sheets for your neighborhood. So Civi CRM does have that capability. As I mentioned, it's defunct, and it's defunct because it's a hard level of tech to build and develop, and we just didn't have the resources to continue it, or the people running it didn't have the resources to continue it. If you're using Nation Builder, there is an app called Handy Nation, and it will help you. It will connect into your Nation Builder account, and it'll help you run walk sheets and things like that. It starts at about $60 a month and scales depending on how many people are in your nation. But it's really easy and useful to be able, to pull up an app on your phone and just go. And you're talking to somebody at the door, and you can hit things. You can have a tablet with you, or you can have a phone with you, and you can fill out the things as they say. You can make sure everything's getting directly into it. When I was a community organizer almost a decade ago at this point, when I was a field director, my canvassers went out into the field with cards, and at the end of every day we had to do data entry on all those cards. So Handy Nation takes that out, right? You do it at the door. eCanvasser is the same way, but it's not tethered to Nation Builder. You can upload your lists. It can integrate with things, and not only will it run you walk sheets, but they both let you take notes. Answer the specific questions that you have. And so you can, not only can you talk to people, but you can keep track of these conversations for future, for building up that relationship, and relationships are key to organizing. I don't have it on the screen, but I just learned last night actually about a feature in Action Network called kiosk mode, where you create an action like a survey or something that you might knock doors with. You put it in kiosk mode, and it will just change the functionality so that it can reset. So it allows a basic standard Action Network action to then kind of turn into a canvassing app, where you can pull up the person's name when you get there, and then just fill out the form. And when you click submit, it'll submit it, and then it'll refresh the whole new blank form for your next door, and you can move on. So it's not quite a canvassing app, but it does make take a lot of that data entry out, which is good. So that kind of all wraps it up. You can ask questions on the side. There's if you go to greensocialist.net, we'll have all this stuff up, and we'll have all this stuff up. I've got a resource pack that I'll put up there as well, and then those will be there. I need to do some updating. Like I said, I've done these a few years. I've been doing this for a few years. I've always called it the Gospel of Michael Dennis. Michael Dennis was a GPUS steering committee co-chair that I served with and worked with in the youth caucus. They had to leave the steering committee to be employed by Nation Builder, actually. But they were a big influence on my focus on systems. So I've always called this the Gospel of Michael Dennis. But if anybody has any questions, I'm scrolling through. Let's see. Feel free to ask questions. Yeah, you can share this stuff wherever you want. This will always be here. I've done them for Illinois. I've done a number of these. I linked the other one in the beginning for the beginning of the series. But I'll be continuing to do these. Systems are incredibly important for our work to become more efficient, so that we can leverage automation, leverage technology into letting us run better campaigns that allow us to get more reach without greatly expanding our resources or spending an outrageous amount of money. Next month, I'm going to continue I've been doing systems workshops on the last Saturday of the month. So May 29th, I'll be back doing a systems workshop on the same time, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And I'll be talking about social media for grassroots campaigns, because it is, running an effective social media campaign from the grassroots without a lot of resources is a whole different thing than what you see from corporate social media management, major political parties, the massively funded not-for-profit complex that are largely Democratic front groups. These organizations' social media strategies are generally ad-based. I don't know the numbers from 2020, but in 2016, Trump and Clinton spent about $80 million on Facebook ads alone. Jill Stein spent tens of thousands, if not more, if not into the hundreds of thousands on Facebook ads alone. That's just not a sustainable model. So if we want to, run grassroots campaigns, it's a little different. So I'll be back the last Saturday of May, which will be the 29th at 3 p.m. for a workshop on that. Make sure you're tuning in on Tuesdays. Howie and Angela. Angela's been working late, so it's been more Howie lately. But Howie and Angela are live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for their weekly Green Socialist Notes live stream. If you like podcasts, that live stream comes out as a podcast on Thursday mornings. You can find all that at greensocialist.net. You can find out more. We've got special streams coming up. We've got a stream coming up on Tuesday on nuclear power and climate change with a number of anti-nuclear activists, including Howie. In May, we've got on May 11th, we're talking to John Curacao. On May 1st, Howie's going to be doing a May Day, the red and green sides of May Day, talking about May Day. So there's that. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about donation processing, and it's probably the most important part of it, when you're taking donations as a political campaign or as a party or any kind of political entity, even if you are not presently required to report, you should always assume you're going to, and you should always collect the information you need to file reports with your state agency or your local agency or the FEC nationally. And that means you need to be collecting as a requirement, the job title and the employer of your donors, and that's a federal requirement that most states have as well. In Illinois, you're not required to file any kind of financial stuff unless you raise or spend $5,000 as a party or candidate. So many of our local candidates don't have to worry about it, but you should always be collecting that info, because if we had a candidate in Illinois who passed that threshold for a state house race, and they thankfully listened and was collecting that info, because if they hadn't and they hit that 5,000, there would be a huge amount of work to go back and collect all that from everybody. So you need to make sure when you're doing the kind of donation stuff that you're following reporting guidelines, that you're following local, state, or federal rules, and talk to your party treasurer, and they can help you out with that. But yeah, thank you very much for coming, everybody. Like I said, I'll be back on May 29th for a grassroots or social media for grassroots parties workshop, and then go to greensocialist.net and you can see what events we got coming up, what specials we have on our live stream. You can check out our reading lists, and you can get involved in the organizing we're trying to do. So have a good day, and thank you everybody for